Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad that you have joined us today. You are here for the Upgrade Yourself, Get SOLIDWORKS Certified session. My name is Rachel Jones, and I am the Training Product Manager here at Hawkridge Systems. Well, what does that mean? So what is my role? My job is to make sure that our training is worth buying and our training is worth selling. So I work closely with both our engineering and sales teams to provide our customers with the right training products. What I find so exciting about training is that it helps you, our customers, maximize on that so important software investment that you've made. But training also elevates you and your company from the crowd. And what a better way to show yourself, your customers, your coworkers, your boss, or maybe even your next boss, what you know through SOLIDWORKS certifications. So today I brought someone along with us to talk and help answer your questions around SOLIDWORKS certifications. Mr. Mike Puckett, the Senior Manager Worldwide Certification Program for SOLIDWORKS. Mike, we're so happy we're here. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your role with SOLIDWORKS?
Well, of course. And first of all, thank you to Rachel and the rest of the Hawkridge crew for inviting me to participate today. I'm always excited to go out and talk about certifications whenever I can. So my role is basically leading a rather small team of professional engineers and certification experts to cover the technical certification program for SOLIDWORKS. So that includes the customer program that we're going to talk about today. But it also includes a rather extensive program that involves, like you find folks at Hawkridge, our entire reseller channel. That's a few thousand people around the world, about 4,000 people, and a number of technical exams that is a little bit larger than the customer program, actually.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mike. We're going to get started. And so what I'd like to do is just introduce you a little bit to the platform that we're in. We are using chats, polls, and the Q&A today. So if you are using the full screen, if you switch to the full screen mode, you do have to exit out of that to have access to these. And so take a look. You can see there's a way to chat with us. We'll be asking you guys some questions and hopefully getting some feedback from you guys. We will have a poll shortly here. And then if you have any direct questions, go ahead and you can post those in that Q&A section. We have Jordan Winger helping us today as our moderator. You might see him in there answering some of your questions or responding to chats there. Jordan Winger is one of our engineering managers here at Hawkridge, and you may have seen him if you've been in any of the CAD roundtables either yesterday or today. So thank you so much, Jordan, for helping us out today. So to practice with the polls, get ourselves started here. In 2020, we've got a lot going on, right? And I would say there's one particular mashup, or I don't know what you want to call it. Anyway, one particular duo that I kind of like to understand from you guys. Who are you rooting for? So I want to know, let's practice using the polls here. So you'll check out the poll over on the right-hand side. Are you rooting for Team Johnny Lawrence or Team Danny LaRusso? And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, Cobra Kai is a kind of a fun, thing to binge on Netflix that came out this year. So, or actually it came out a couple years ago, but season 2 is now this year. So anyway, something fun to binge, and when we're in this cold season, or entering in this cold season, and a chance to practice using the polls. So yeah, let me know which team you're on, Danny LaRusso or Team Johnny Lawrence. All right, I see quite a few Danny LaRussos. Perhaps you haven't watched Cobra Kai.
I was going to say, I think you're losing based on conversation last week.
No, it's no secret here that I am on Team Johnny Lawrence. So
I think everybody likes a good guy, right?
Yeah, well, depends on what you think of a good guy is.
Right.
Okay, we'll leave that open for just a little bit more, get you guys kind of just familiar with using the poll and the chat there. Don't be afraid to interact with us here.
Yeah, it's a good, I mean, good amount of people here in here.
Yeah, we do have a good turnout today. Okay. Well, you guys can kind of think about that. I'll close up the poll in a little bit here, but I want to get moving on to the kind of our next really big important question, though, in understanding from you guys your certifications. So we're here to talk about certifications. So we'll kind of chill on the karate drama, but do you currently have a SOLIDWORKS certification? If so, use that chat window and tell us what you have. Tell us what certification that you do have. So we just kind of want to see who we've got in our audience today.
I was going to actually, I meant to go add mine up. So how many do you have, Rachel? Do you have any?
Oh, I do. Yep. I have CSWA. I got that when I was in school. I have my CSWP. I also have the mold, sheet metal, weldments, and surface modeling. I haven't taken the time to take to go for the CSWE. Probably should. Probably should do that for sure.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you have met the qualifications to take CSWE for mechanical design.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar or not even sure what on earth we're talking about, you're in the right place. We'll talk about all of that with you guys. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, it looks like we have a few people that don't have any. We have some people that have been using software for a long time. Some people with CSWAs. Yeah. Oh, wow. 20 years of experience from Jeff over there, but no certifications, Jeff. Let's get you some certifications. Let's make that happen for you. Okay, let's talk about those certifications. Okay. So Mike, why do certifications matter? I mean, I'm somebody like Jeff, right? Why is it important for him to have a certification? Why can't we just say, hey, I've been using the software for a long time? Shouldn't that be good enough?
Yeah, I'm glad actually Jeff kind of answered in that answer. I was hoping somebody would, because it comes up quite often, and it's not meant to embarrass people or stuff like that. We had somebody on an online forum that kind of approached it the same way, and true, experience does bring a lot of experience right to the software. But as engineers, especially as users of software, we get ingrained into like doing things the same way all the time, and we may not always pay attention to the new tools that come out. And so we've had instances where we've approached people that have kind of responded to us like that privately, of course, and said, hey, would you like to just kind of run through one to see what it is? And most of the time they will reply, it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not quite using all the tools that are there, but I kind of discovered through the exam, how I can start to use those tools. And I mean, as Jeff said, 1996, I mean, a lot of things have changed in the software. So, but that doesn't mean that we have people that can just breeze through them. So they're important to both people who are been using the software for years, but also for people who are just kind of starting their careers as well. So we're trying to get away from that notion that only new people need to get certified. So it's kind of designed for everybody in that sense.
So Mike, what are colleges, universities, employers saying about certifications when you get a chance to talk to them?
They love it. I mean, based on these graphs, this is a survey done by a couple of engineers who were working on their doctorate, one from Purdue and one from Murray State University, who just went out there and asked what the value was. And if you see some of those responses, I mean, when the students said, when they asked them was a certification valuable during a hiring process, 98% answering yes I think it's pretty good in terms of that. We'd like to have it 100% of course, but I think we're well happy with that. But just overall, if certifications were helpful, those are just high percentages that across those. And again, we didn't know about this study until I would say about a year after it came out, when it landed on my desk. So I think we've been able to prove that, but it can't hurt. That's of course is true.
So, okay, cool. So I think I kind of understand a little bit more. Certifications are really meant to be that recognized benchmark to measure your knowledge, competency with SOLIDWORKS. And it's the difference between saying I've been using SOLIDWORKS and saying I know SOLIDWORKS. So let's talk about what certifications are available. I know that the most common ones out there are things that you might recognize as the CSWP, the CSWA first, right? And then the CSWP and the CSWE, which we talked briefly about as you guys were kind of letting us know what certifications you have. So let me talk just real quickly about kind of the difference between them. So a CSWA, that is a Certified SOLIDWORKS Associate, and that helps you stand out from the crowd in today's competitive job market. It might be something that you get upon or when you're in school. And then we have the CSWP, and that's going to be our Certified SOLIDWORKS Professional. And that's for someone who's successfgood passed this advanced skills exam. Perhaps they've been using the software a little bit longer. They've got some practice in place, some good good practices, some good work habits in place, and are able to be pretty proficient inside the software. And last, we have the CSWE, the Certified SOLIDWORKS Expert. And that's someone who demonstrates the ability to utilize advanced functions and features inside of the tool as well. So like Mike had explained earlier, or had mentioned earlier when I talked about my certifications, I also have some additional certifications beyond the CSWA and CSWP working towards, or what could work towards, the CSWE. So let's talk about some of the other exams that are available. So like I said, we have the CSWA, the CSWP, and that CSWE. But what other exams are available out there?
Well, there's so you got a few shown there. There's a few different levels there. I don't know if you want to show the rest of them or not, but
Yeah.
basically they are we start at the associate level, which is kind of like the introductory level for the certifications, and we're starting. Those are very historic. So CSWA was actually one of the first that we went online. CSWP is the oldest since 1998, but we essentially that one's kind of become the standard for education. We're starting to move away from that and going to just regular like professional level Explorer. So there's associate levels. Then we have the advanced ones, which you just showed right now. Those are like we're taking like different parts of the product and designing exams just for those areas, and we're moving those into a more like industry type of certification as well. So for sheet metal and weldments and especially mold making, the information contained in the exams is really aimed at the people that are in those industries. So if you don't know stuff about mold making, chances are you're not going to. It's going to be tough to pass the mold exam. You may have passed the older one. So those are professional exam level exams. And then we do have the experts that are showing there. There's the for simulation mechanical design. That's the second. The simulation was the second expert level that we introduced about 10 years after we had introduced the first one for mechanical design. So those are pretty limited there. With the expert exam, I did see a question about why we haven't given a freebie CSWE. The reason is that we try to keep CSWE exclusive to those people who really, 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 really want it. And that's why there's only about 2,800 customer CSWEs around the world compared to almost 200,000 CSWPs. So, and then of course after that, the 3D Experience platform is here. We have the portfolio of 3D Experience works roles that are being introduced all the time, and so we've even launched into those, and those are Explorer level exams for now, which is kind of basically replacing Associate in the future. And then at some point we'll have some hands-on exams for them as well.
Wow, so there's quite a few exams available kind of for anybody inside of using the manufacturing platforms, design and manufacturing platforms. So there's, if I understand right, there's about 22 available, and the cool thing is they're available right 24/7.
Yes, yeah, 22 as of today. I don't know if you want to announce the one that's coming up. We actually announced it about a month ago on SOLIDWORKS Live, but there's one coming out for our Flow Professional, so Flow Simulation Professional, and then also one that we really haven't announced yet, but should be coming on later this month is one of the 3D Experience Works roles for the Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS, which is kind of like a hybrid connector for SOLIDWORKS onto the platform that we've seen quite a bit of adoption with so far. That I think SOLIDWORKS lovers are really going to love. I mean, it's just one of those kind of roles that just allows them to kind of get onto the platform and see what they can do, and then hopefully expand in the future.
Cool, Mike. I want to show the group here where we can find some more information about the certification. So we kind of gave you a whole bunch of information really quickly on that slide. There is a place you can go on the SOLIDWORKS website. If you go to the certification section, in there you can see the instructions for how to take a test. You can kind of jump to any particular area that you're interested in. You can read a little bit more about each exam, get to the exam information, and we'll do some more exploring later. We're not going to, I'm not just flying through all this for you guys. And then you can also, right from here, take the exam. So we'll jump through more of this stuff later, but I wanted to get you guys familiar with where to go, and we'll share all these links with you as well before we end our day together. Okay. So one more question for you guys, or another question for you guys, if you want to use the chat again. I'd like to know, from what you've learned about so far, what certifications piqued your interest? And go ahead and just put there in the chat the things that, any of the certifications that jumped out at you. And if you don't remember the code, that's okay. Just tell us what you, kind of how you might describe that exam. So yeah, go ahead and put that in the chat, and I'd love to hear from you guys what it is that you might be interested in taking in the future here.
Yeah, it
And
is an
Rachel,
acronym. I'm sorry. It is an acronym soup of codes. So I apologize for that. But
hey
And Jeff,
Rachel,
oh yeah, Jordan, sorry, go ahead.
well, people are chatting in there with their interest on certifications. A good question came in here from Alan.
Okay.
Is there a difference between the academic CSWA and the regular CSWA?
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, and thanks, Jordan, for pointing out that. I was trying to grab some of those questions, but I'm glad you brought them up in that way. Yes, there is actually the biggest difference is that you can only take an academic exam at an academic institution, and this is to make it so that schools, districts, states can receive funding grants for for delivering those types of certifications. So it's the information exams does vary a little bit, but basically it's just it can only be taken at a school, and can only be taken in a proctored environment. So you have a teacher that's in the classroom, or that's proctoring it. Or for right now, for this year, basically we've kind of allowed parents to proctor those exams for the time being. But once school is back in full session, we'll go back to being a proctored environment by a teacher.
Cool. We've got quite a variety in here. I'm pretty excited. We've got flow and we've got additive manufacturing, CSWP, CSWE, sustainability. So it looks like we have quite the variety. PDM, I love that. So we don't just have one type of user sitting in here. And I was hoping to hear from you, Jeff. I was looking to see maybe what you posted. I don't see your name here yet, but so I'm curious, Jeff. And again, we're not picking on you. It just I love that we've got somebody with so much experience joining our session today. So. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how do you get ready to take an exam? How do you get ready, find that information, and know what to do next? Okay. So first of all, being interested in the exam, that's huge, right? Just getting yourself kind of your mind ready for that. That's really important. Next, what I would say is go through some training. At Hawkridge Systems, we have quite a bit of classes available to you. And you're going to be blown away at how much that you'll be able to learn in our classes from our instructors. If you've never taken a class before, I highly recommend even taking that SOLIDWORKS Essentials class that we offer. And I don't mean to brag, but we really have an awesome group of instructors, probably the best group of instructors in the industry. And actually, I'm pretty happy to brag on them because they're a pretty cool group of guys and gals. And you may have caught on, Mike was talking earlier about there's a set of certifications that we, the resellers, have to pass. These guys are passing those exams as well. So they're very familiar with not just the types of exams that our customers take, but they're familiar with just that whole exam platform and getting prepared for them themselves. So here's kind of a nice pathway that I would suggest, especially for those of you that maybe are thinking about that CSWE, is taking that essentials class first, perhaps, and then kind of our CSWA or the CSWA exam kind of fits in well after that. And then building on with assembly, advanced part modeling, drawings, and then the CSWP fits nice after that. And then we have some of those advanced exams that Mike was talking about that are a little bit maybe more industry specific, depending on, of course, what it is that you do. So drawings or sheet metal, weldment, surface modeling, or even mold design. And if those kind of fit in with you, then you've met the prerequisites to take that CSWE or that expert exam. And what's cool is for Hawkridge Systems, we have a nice little training package that comes with all of those classes. So you can certainly prep for those exams through training and getting yourself, if you wanted to, up to that CSWE level. But there's also some other things available that SOLIDWORKS offers, right? Mike, do you mind telling us a little bit about some of the things that SOLIDWORKS offers about getting ready for exams?
Yeah, probably the biggest one is My SOLIDWORKS, which is kind of it was an early kind of onset of like e-learning type of information that we launched. That's been years now. I can't even remember back when My SOLIDWORKS launched. It's been quite a number of years. That's probably one of the big ones there. The one we do like to specify a lot is the training that you just described. So as Rachel talked about with the certifications that we make the resellers go through, one of the big ones is the training or instructor certification. And we literally sit in a room with them. It's usually the one person from the reseller sitting up front, and myself or somebody from my team, and then usually a couple of other people from SOLIDWORKS sit in the back asking the most ridiculous questions that we can, or even some technical ones, just to kind of see how they kind of do. So the live presentation training, or even right now the online training being delivered via some sort of web app or web service, is done really well. So those are in there, and then also the sample exams. So there's basically pretty much all of our exams include sample exams as well. So you can always go on the site, check them out, and then go through it. And then of course, just practicing, that's all part of it.
Let me take a minute and I'll show them kind of what we were talking about with, or what you were talking about with the My SolidWorks. So there is a prep course inside of My SolidWorks. You do need to have an account, but you can have an account for free. There is some paid account options as well. But there is the CSWP exam prep course, and there's a whole set of videos here that you can watch. These are great to go through once you've taken training, or as you've kind of gone through and understand some of the base concepts, and then you can go through and watch these quick videos. There are oftentimes file sets that you can download and then practice along with the video sets. So again, just really getting yourselves immersed into that content. There also is the sample exam, which you can find that on when you go through that certification page, and you can go to the CSWP page. There is this practice exam, and there's a whole bunch of information in here about what you need to do to get ready. We'll talk about some of these other things in just a moment. But then there's the sample exam where you need to go through. Sorry, I want to scroll through this quickly. Sorry if that's bugging anybody out here. There's a couple of questions on here, so you're going to be asked to model that, and then they do give you the answers, but the idea is then, can you get through all of these these sample questions within a certain period of time, in a given period of time, and get them correct? Not just can you get it done, but can you get it correct? And then can you get them correct, but also within a given period of time? So it's really talking about that efficiency as well.
Yeah, and just real quick mention, Rachel, that exam is actually in that document explains how to take that exam in the virtual tester client actually. So
yes, that's a good point.
That also walks you through that entire process.
Yes. Yeah, because this will be an exam that you do take online. You do have to have an internet connection set up, an account set up, and all of those things. And that does walk you through all of that. One thing just about training, I wanted to just point out that we understand, right? Like being able to have a training class face-to-face with a person is ideal, right? And just like being able to have this conference face-to-face would be ideal. But we have adapted, and I would say we've overcome in 2020. I think you guys are really enjoying this conference. I know the feedback we've gotten so far has been great. We've also taken into consideration for training. We've spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into really improving our online training environment. It's still live, it's still instructor-led, and it's very interactive. So we certainly want to invite you guys to join us to our online classes. It's a little bit different than what we're experiencing in this particular conference environment, but the same idea. You have an instructor right there on the camera. There's an instructor right there via chat, and certainly audibly to be able to interact with. All right, let's take a look at the exam itself. Okay, we're going to focus on the CSWP exam. And let me go back just one moment. I want to go back to my web pages here. So the CSWP exam, it has its own page. Many of the other exams have their own page as well. And you can go through and you can kind of see how much time do I have to take this exam? What's considered passing? A little bit about the exam. This information is also in that PDF I was just showing you with that practice exam. But you'll see the CSWP exam is really divided into 3 segments. The first is on part modeling. And there's some pretty clear things that it's going to be asking you, or things that it will expect you to be able to do: creating a part, making changes to that part, the configuration section, being able to work with configurations, being able to use a design table. And then the last segment is on the assembly modeling. Then it also gives you this really nice long list of all the things, or all the commands and tools that they expect you to be able to know how to use, and they will likely be covered or potentially covered inside of that exam. So it may feel really daunting. Go ahead when you get a chance. If you're looking at taking any of these exams, go through that list and do I understand those things? Do I feel like I have those mastered? That could be a really good opportunity to say, I think I need to take some training classes. Once you've taken those training classes, go back and take a look and see what maybe My SOLIDWORKS has available to you to kind of help master those. And again, we want to practice. Okay, so let's take a little bit more of a deep dive into the exam itself. And we'll first take a look, we're going to focus on the CSWP here. So you'll be asked to model a part, okay? And they'll be giving you multiple views. So you can click through those different views so you can get a better idea of specific dimensions and how that part is put together. They'll also give you very specific information on how to set this part up, what sort of material needs to be assigned, particular parameters, those dimensions that you would want to define as you're creating your model. All right. Next, you might be asked to, as you're giving your answer, so you'll be asked to enter the mass of the part. You may also be given the opportunity to choose multiple options. Okay, there is a margin of error that you are allowed to be in, but it's pretty small. So definitely to pay attention to how you set up your part as you're modeling and as you're creating. And as the changes come, perhaps some of those parameters are going to change, right? So perhaps maybe dimension A was 150 previously, now it's 137, right? So how does your model change? So you gotta set yourself up to be successful as you make those changes. Then you'll be asked to make significant changes to your model. Pay close attention when there's multiple choice answers. It's very possible that there could be an answer on there that is incorrect that appears to be correct if maybe you didn't set up your material correctly. Okay, so it's going to be really important to really pay attention to all the pieces of the instructions. Okay. Next, configurations. Similar to that previous segment, you'll be asked to give your answer with the mass of the part, but this time you'll be expected to navigate around the configurations of the part, how to find those configurations, how to make changes to configurations. You'll also want to be familiar with being able to access the design table and how to manipulate the design table as well. If you're not familiar with configurations, we do talk about in our SOLIDWORKS Essentials class. If you're not familiar with design tables, that's also available to you in the SOLIDWORKS tutorials. That's a great place to go look and just give yourself a chance to answer some questions, get yourself ready for design tables. You'll also notice at the bottom of the exam, there's a little bar, a timer that gives you an idea of how much time you've taken so far, how much time you have left. And then there is also a few buttons here where you can navigate, further on into the exam, previous questions in the exam. There is a reset question button, so maybe you've typed something incorrectly. You want to reset your answer, kind of clear that out. Be careful not to click that if you didn't want to click that. And then there's also that show summary button, so it gives you kind of a preview or a heads up on what you still have left to answer, what you have answered. Okay. And the last section of the CSWP focuses on assemblies. Some components you're going to be asked to download. So certainly you want to be able to have SOLIDWORKS on your machine that you are taking the exam on, to be able to grab those parts down and so that you can utilize them as part of the exam. All right, some of the components in the assemblies you might also be asked to design. So not just download, but also design. Again, it'll give you that particular information with dimensions and material. All right. You also may be asked to give the center of gravity. So not just the mass of the part, but maybe the center of gravity. Pay close attention when those questions come up, whether your values are in the positive or negative direction. So when you grab that information out and it's negative, make sure you enter it in also as negative, because that makes a big difference. All right. And of course, being an assembly exam, portion of the exam, you're going to have to create an assembly. So you want to make sure, pay close attention to the mates that are in there, any of the defined parameters that you need to set up your exam or set up your assembly. Sorry, so that you can get that correct answer. It's going to be absolutely critical that you follow those directions so you can find that answer. All right. So when you're taking these exams, whether it's a CSWP or really any of them, we just took a look at the CSWP because, like Mike mentioned, it's a pretty popular exam. excuse me, think of it a little bit like a game. And I know sometimes when we think of games, you might think of games like Candyland or Bingo or something, but those are games where you have no control. I do not think of the CSWP as a game where you have no control. I think of it as a game maybe like Catan, where you have control, you have strategy that you can use. So Mike, let's talk a little bit about that strategy for taking these exams. I would definitely say, for one, find yourself that familiar place, that familiar space that you work in. I know we're all working from home, or many of us are working from home right now. If I were to take an exam, I have a home office set up. I would work in my home office. I wouldn't all of a sudden decide, oh, I'm going to take the exam in my kitchen, because don't work in that space on SolidWorks. So definitely work in that familiar place, that familiar space. Set yourself up with dual monitors. Like I said, you're going to have the testing environment in one space where you need to be able to view the information, pop through the different views, potentially download, and of course answer your questions, and then have your SOLIDWORKS on a separate monitor so you can go back and forth between the two and not having to move between windows necessarily, just be able to change between screens. Also, you want to make sure that you have a good internet connection set up. Take advantage of using global variables. You saw on some of those where it gave you like dimension A, B, and C each had their own value. Set those up, and then you can change those values, and you'll have your model updated if that's all that you needed to make changes to, and you'll have your answer very quickly. And I would say the last one I have for you is, as you're going through and creating your files, or creating your files to create your answers, save each question as its own file. That doesn't mean start over. That means start on, create your model, answer the question, save, do a save as, and get your new one going, and then do a save as and continue on working that way. Mike, do you have any good tips for people in that strategy piece, like as they're playing this game?
Yeah, one is all about time management, and as David mentioned in the chat, that 70 minutes for the segment one goes by pretty fast, and it's
Yes, it does.
it's the segment that's failed the most often, probably because of that time. So definitely, out of that list, the global variables is the one that I would mention the most. But even that is more importantly, is that one of the things that test does that the real world doesn't, is it allows you to kind of you can progress through the exam. When you first launch it, you can click through the entire exam and see what those part changes are going to be. Because even like on that sample part that you showed earlier, there's the little boss that's in the corner that sticks up that has a counterboard through it. Depending on how you when you place the fillet that's on the corner of it, will either blow up on you in the next change or it won't. And I've discovered that live plenty of times before I finally just figured out or fixed it. Because you go back in through and you put a little cut that you want that fillet to be included, and it allows you to create this cut by just clicking on the face and converting all the entities, and boom, you're done. So definitely going through a tab through or skip through the questions, see what they're going to do. So, and again, it's nice because in real life we don't get that opportunity as designers to see what a part is going to end up after all the changes that the sales guy makes on it.
No, we certainly don't. So that's an awesome tip. So look ahead, make that plan. Think about that design intent as as you're going through those models. That's a really good tip. Thanks, Mike. I think that'll really help quite a few people out. Well, so we've talked about the exams. We've talked about kind of what to expect on the exam. We've talked about how to prepare for the exam. But how do you get to the exam? How do you buy the exam? And I understand that you can get these for free as well. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you can get the exam or get some of the exams at no cost?
Yeah, so there's I think if you look really hard, like on Slick Deals or something, sometimes you'll find some cheat codes or something, maybe, or some vouchers posted up there, or certain YouTube or Facebook groups they're pirating vouchers. But to get them legitimately for free, all of our customers on certification as a part of the value-added subscription or benefits that are provided with subscription, we provide a number of exams, and it's almost about $500 per year per seat. So that's kind of the best way to get it through there. We go through and we update this quite often, this offer. And I don't know if you want to go through it now or if
yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll bring up that page.
Yeah, so basically you're going to need a SOLIDWORKS ID. The key thing here is the SOLIDWORKS ID needs to be connected to your your serial number, right? This is where we encounter a little bit of issues with people not understanding how to do that, because you can complete the process without connecting it. But essentially what we're doing is we're establishing a connection between who you are and what your license is. And also at that point, it allows us to connect your or to establish who you are in our certification system, as well as on our main system. And so within the next 6 months or so, we're actually going to merge those, so you'll be able to add access the virtual tester using your SOLIDWORKS ID. So that's the main thing. And then it's a simple process of selecting through one from each box. And then the nice part about this is that this offer it's not just once per year. You can do it in the January through June timeframe, and then from July through December, you get to complete the offer or access the offer all again from scratch. And when you redeem the offer, you get a set of voucher codes, and those voucher codes are good for 180 days from the date that you create that offer. So in a sense, you could do the redemption on December 31st and get a set of vouchers, and then redeem the voucher on January 1st and get a set of vouchers. And both of those are good for about 180 days.
You guys heard it here first, right? This is how you can kind of hack the system a little bit there with those 180 days. All right, that's awesome. So these are available to our customers that are on subscription, where they can have this attempt, kind of pick through these and choose which ones kind of fit them best.
As well as network license users, as long as the network license is on subscription.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and we know the number of seats. So it's the number of seats, not the number of users. So if you have 25 people at a company using 10 network licenses, you can only do 10 redemptions.
Good clarification. Thank you.
Or buy another seat.
Now there are some exams that you have that are available for sale, correct? And I think you were telling me about that there's a promo coming up. Do you want to talk about that promo a little bit?
Yeah, basically we just launched the API professional exam a little bit earlier, about 3 weeks ago. And so what we did is we're doing a special offer, and we earlier this year in April, we did a 50% off all the stuff in the store. It's the first time that we've done anything in terms of discounting exams in the life of the program. And that was kind of obviously to kind of help people that are working from home, give them something to do. And it worked out very well. So we might do this in the future again. But now through the end of October, all of the same exams at the same level that include MBD, PDM admin, simulation, the API exam, and CAM are all 50% off. So basically, you just got to go to our site and select the exam that you want, click buy, and when you're in the checkout process, you can enter the code, and it's 50% off. If you want to buy all those exams at 50% off, you can. But just for those 5 exams until the end of the month.
Cool, that's awesome. Great way to certainly elevate your resume, or your internal resume or external resume, I should say. All right, so there's a couple of really cool stats that you were telling me about, Mike. So I wanted to give you a chance to share with with our audience as well some just kind of fun things about certifications.
Yeah, one of the things I will preface this slide by saying that we're not tasked with a certain amount of certifications or people that we need to certify every year. My boss likes we kind of set a number that's a goal, but it doesn't impact anything to have to do with what I get paid or anything like that. So it's just a number to kind of reference to make sure that as we plan and do things, that it's kind of on track. So there are no goals on these numbers, which is nice, because otherwise it would devalue the certification. So, but yeah, I mean, it's, Rachel and I were talking before this about just rounding this number off to 470,000 for today. But it's fun to watch the numbers grow. Last year on October, we did a similar kind of discount thing. And so we were hoping that maybe we'll kind of beat that number this year, where 2,700 people basically took an exam on that day. So it was kind of fun to watch that. And then overall during the year, this is a pretty interesting stat. Basically every 1.9 minutes, somebody was accessing one of our exams or launching exams. It's actually 1.85, but we rounded up to 1.9. And then every 6.4 minutes, somebody passed one of our certifications. So for 2020, we were hoping to reach the 100,000 certifications in a year for the first time ever. But a variety of kind of things have come along to kind of spoil that. But we're actually not too far off of trending for 100,000 for the year. So I think we're going to get close, which just kind of shows the power of the program, I think, and the reception in the industry for our SOLIDWORKS certifications overall.
That's awesome. So if we're trying to get to 100,000 for the year, maybe some of the people in our audience can help make that happen
Yeah,
for you, right? Get those
definitely.
exams in place and earn those certifications, and let's make 2020 a good thing. All right. So I have a few slides at the end here. These are things we've already talked about for the most part, and these links and these last few slides will be available to you guys as a handout, so you'll have access to these. But I just want to walk through them real quick, the things that you'll be able to take away with you. So there is that link to that certification center, so you can see information about the exams, how to purchase the exams, maybe those exams that aren't part of the subscription offer, or additional exams that you want beyond the subscription offer. Also, the certification center, where you can interact with your own certification account. You can download the certificates, the logos. Those are going to be important. And as you share those with others, you can certainly add the logo to perhaps your LinkedIn profile. You can also choose to opt in. You're not opted in by default, but opt in to that directory listing. So maybe once you get that CSWP, you proudly display that logo on LinkedIn. Also put your name on there, and then other people can see you're listed as a CSWP holder. And you can find other people as well. And then again, we have a couple links here related to the subscription offer. That first link here, you do need to have an account set up in the customer portal to access that, but you can certainly do that pretty easily. I also have some links here for Hawkridge systems. So just a quick look at our training, how to access information about our training. Also a simple video on just how to navigate through and maybe find certain classes, maybe find certain packages that might fit with you. And then we have some information as well on subscription with Hawkridge. So what you get when you choose to have subscription with SolidWorks, and the things that Hawkridge has available to you, like our support system and some of our resources, etc. And then we have a little bit about certification, a lot of similar stuff to what you saw before, but again, all in one here in one spot on the Hawkridge slide. And then the last slide I have for you guys, if you're interested in the CSWP, I just chose to include some of those links with the exam prep course for my SolidWorks, and then also just that general CSWP information page, which gives you access to, or gives you links to, that practice exam, and kind of that detailed list of all the things that you are expected to understand or might be quizzed on. So Jordan's got that posted. The handout is posted in the chat. It should also be available for you in the session afterwards. Otherwise, I want to open up the Q&A or the chat for any additional questions, and just say thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for kind of humoring us on a few of our questions, and it was good to get a chance to connect with all of you for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to put a quick shout out to Nathan Reeder. I saw him mention that he enjoyed the training that you guys offer down here in your Las Vegas office. I actually work from home in Las Vegas, so Nathan, if you want to ping me and let me know where you work and what you do in town, I'm always interested in trying to go out and meet SolidWorks customers around town. We have quite a few fun ones in different industries, like slot machines and marijuana growing equipment, all kinds of fun stuff. So shoot me a message or something like that, or get in touch with somebody at Hawkridge. They can put you in touch with me.
Hey, Mike, I have another question that came in from Steven. I answered it with a couple of links to the certification exam web pages, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit more for us here. What are the differences between the pro and associate simulation certifications?
The associate is going to be very kind of entry level, and may include like some just general questions like what does mesh mean, stuff like that. Where on the professional level, it's always going to be, with maybe a caveat or two, hands-on challenges, and they're going to be a little bit more challenging. And then of course, once you get to the expert level includes actually different areas, so flow and stuff like that. So it's associate is always going to be more entry level and basic than the professional level will be.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Mike. Another one here from Jay. How long would you say these trainings are valid for? SolidWorks evolves and improves over time, and I imagine that one should retake the exams over the years to stay certified. Yeah, I know for us as resellers, we often have to recertify our exams either each year or each 2-year period. So I imagine that's the same. Maybe again, Mike or Rachel, you could elaborate on that a little more.
The trainings, I'll let you guys kind of go there. With the certifications, like my CSWP is actually from 2007. And so we don't require updates for certifications yet, I guess I'll kind of say for customers. We may change that with the platform hands-on stuff. But for like stuff like that, it's basically like a notion of like walking in somewhere and showing, here's my CSWP from 2007 versus here's my CSWP from 2020, right? Obviously, the software does change quite often, and we update the exams every couple of years. So we encourage people to, if they've already have it and it's been like 5-6 years, go in and update it. You don't lose your original one; it's still in your account, so you still can carry that pride of like, I've been certified since 2007. Here's my updated version.
Yeah, from a training standpoint, I think there's always benefit in repeating, giving yourself a refresher. Certainly the first time around, maybe you go through and you're just kind of grabbing a lot of quick tips and best practices and things, and then as perhaps you choose to repeat later on, you'll pick up some things that are new. As you guys know, the software has changed. It's changed significantly. It changes significantly every year, right? So our training tries to keep up with that as much as possible. And so if you decide to come back to a class after you've taken maybe 5 years ago, you're going to see some new things, perhaps some of the same general topics, but certainly some new tips and tricks, and some improved methods. So I would not discourage anybody from repeating a class if they would like to.
And Jordan, I see a few other questions coming in the chat, and we're going back and forth between chat and Q&A. I can answer a few of those, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yep. So let's see. Champions program under certification. It's actually under community marketing, but certification is a component of that. So SOLIDWORKS Champions. I think you can go on this. You can just search for the SOLIDWORKS Champions program information. But user certification is a component of that. Let's see. Has anyone taken the CSWP when it's 8-hour exam? I took it twice. Once the first year I failed it in 2006 at SOLIDWORKS World. It was here in Las Vegas, and I decided that I thought it was a good idea to go out drinking until 3:30 in the morning and then sit for an 8-hour exam the next day. Probably not the smartest idea. But we've actually had the current exam is actually tougher, or it's not passed as often as the old 8-hour exam was. So it's definitely not any easier, that it's just because it's not 8 hours. Let's see. So Alan asked another question from Alan. For instructor and tech support certifications, instructor is not doesn't have to be renewed, but it's tied to the regular support certification. So to give you the customers an insight on it, we certify instructors once, and then they have to maintain the technical support exams that are related to it. And if they don't renew those every other year, the instructor certification gets repealed or gets revoked until they pass them or they become valid on there. So a little bit of gamification we put on there just to keep them current on stuff. And then Mark, your questions about sheet metal. I'm not quite sure what you were asking earlier. Maybe you might want to redefine something about the real world. I mean, we can create an exam where you have to drill an 1/8-inch hole 10 foot through through a block of steel 10 feet. You obviously can't do that in the real world. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. And then let's see. I think that was pretty much it scrolling down through there.
Do we miss anything, Jordan? I'm scrolling through there as well.
Yeah, sorry, Mark, I apologize. I missed that as well. I didn't quite catch that. If you don't mind posting that in the Q&A section, then I can see exactly what has got answered and what hasn't, instead of the chat kind of scrolls up sometimes, and I must have missed that. I apologize. But I'm trying to go back. Every time I scroll up and someone posts a new comment, it goes right back down to the bottom. So I keep getting out of place here. But yeah, if you don't mind putting that in the Q&A section, in the upper right corner of the screen, there's a little Q&A text that you can click on, and it will change from the chat area to the Q&A section. So if you can post them there, certainly. I
think we by allowing him to ask questions in the chat, I think we kind of beat ourselves into a corner in this.
Yeah. So Stephen had a quick question about the simulation certification. I think that he had the question about the associate versus professional. Are both those available for free, potentially with the active subscription?
You could on that site, it shows what's available on there. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We every year in January, we update what's on there. So coming in January, we're going to redo that list and add some new. So can you see if they're on there? My eyesight's kind of bad, and you're well.
Yes, so I just brought that up. It looks like the Sim Associate and the Sim Professional are currently both available. So that might be maybe you can game the system a little bit, Stephen, with that 180 days by doing one then doing the next. So.
Yeah, basically, so it's true for both the expert level exams. What we did for the first time this year is that we made it possible for customer subscription to get to the point where they can achieve or they can access or unlock expert level exams for free. So it makes sense why they're on there. And then again, in January, we'll add some more. Obviously, missing from the advanced topics would be API and the flow exam that are coming on there. So it used to just be basically CSWA or CSWP, and then the some of the specialty topics. And that was it. So we've tried to add more value to that this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, everybody, and we'll see you around at the remainder of the conference. Again, all of these links, those last few slides will be available to you guys as a handout, and then will be available as a recording as well.